Oh man, welcome to Tuesday, the Tuesday before Keystone Clash, and yeah, it's gonna get real busy here soon. So let's see, we've got Keystone Clash this week. I fly out Thursday. Then following weekend we've got Fishtoberfest. Something just fell off my desk randomly. uh, and I'm down at Fishtoberfest for just a day. Basically, I'm gonna come in Friday night. I'll be there Saturday and leave Saturday night. Just because with the amount of traveling all in like one small pocket at a time, it's a little rough on the house and the wife, So not as much time at Fishtoberfest, but I at least want to go down there check out the event because there's been a number of changes from the previous years. So I'm curious to see like how it is and how people enjoy it and receive those changes. But yeah, most of it's going to be the Clash. That's eating a bunch of time. So, with that being said, I want to talk about like what I'm going to do to prep for being away for 4 days and then come back for a little bit and then need to be away again. So I kind of have like short windows of time where I'm away from my tanks. So for like Fishtoberfest, it's kind of easy, right? Weather's not crazy, so I don't have to worry about so much like power outages or anything weird like that. It's not super hot outside. It's also not super cold. So timing wise, this is kind of nice, right? It makes it a little easier. It's not quite as stressful, but the process is going to be the same like basically both weeks. So like tomorrow, as an example, I'm doing water changes all over the place. That way, everything had a nice fresh water change like right before I fly out. That way, we just kind of the age old dilution is the solution. Not that I'm worried about my tanks. Usually, they're super stable, but it's still a good thing. Make sure that water levels are topped off so that as evaporation happens in the rooms that have dehumidifiers and things like that, it's less of a problem. But yeah, should be relatively easy. Uh-oh. Scotty's giving me instructions in stream. I feel like I need to be afraid. Email that man. Email it. This guy's trying to keep me so busy I won't be able to film. I have to make some. We're gonna have some discussion, Scotty. But so then second thing is I'm gonna look at, and I've kind of pre-done this, look at most of the filters in my tanks and just kind of see like, do they need service now? Or are they going to be okay when I come back? Right. So those are things that are helpful. The other thing I look at is food. Like, thankfully, brother-in-law James will still be here and he knows about how to feed tanks. But if I didn't, I would be looking at potentially an auto feeder or maybe some kind of food that stays around a little longer, like big pieces of rapashi or something like that, in order to give the fish a good meal. Now, for 4 days, your fish can go for 4 days without food or a couple days without food. That's easy, right? But let's say we're going longer. These are still things that I want to consider. Andrew Mellor says, can your wife not help with fish? She can. Just keep in mind, Andrew, my wife is disabled, so it's difficult for her to do certain things, and she's not quite as used to the stuff that, say, like brother-in-law James is. So that's where brother-in-law James helps. But little stuff like feeding fish, and like for those days, fertilizer won't be going in the tanks for plants, but they'll be okay. It's only a few days. Even if it was a week and you took a week off of doing fertilizer, you can kind of recover from that. It's not really that big a problem. It's not like you have to have an auto dose or anything crazy. You don't need that nonsense, right? Is it nice? Sure. But for a few days, easy peasy. Won't be that bad. Now, the other things I need to do to prep, right? If I'm looking at, say, things that are on timers, one thing that I might consider doing especially for those of you who maybe you're gone a longer period of time, if you use CO2 in your tanks, go look at all of your tanks and find like, are any of those tanks low? Then turn your CO2 off. Turn all your timers off so that it doesn't turn on. Just in case that as it gets to low pressure in the tank, even if you have a really reliable regulator, just in case, super paranoid, don't risk the potential of the gas off. And especially if you have a cheaper regulator, absolutely turn that thing off, because you don't want something to come home and something to go wrong. And having no CO2 for a few days, a week, is probably going to be okay. Your plants will survive. Right? So those are the things that you can easily do when you're preparing for a trip. Is water change, look at your filters and service the ones that need servicing. Don't be like, it'll be okay for 4 days if it's already kind of teetering on the edge. Like, service it. Take the time. Usually it's only 15 minutes. You're going to be okay. Right? Make sure that you get all these things taken care of. That way there's less stress, because you totally don't want that thing of like, you come in and it's just, oh no, things are terrible, right? So yeah, those are kind of the things that I'm doing, because they're simplistic, right? But I think one of the big ones that a lot of people will forget is turn your CO2 off. Have all your lights on timers. If you have lights that aren't on timers, get them on timers, or just have them off the entire time. You don't want them on the whole time. That's bad. You can have them off. It's just about being safe. From Melissa, when I went on vacation for 10 days, my L33333s decided that it would be a good time to breed. I had someone come by and feed twice in that time. So yeah, see, there you go. You're gone for a week. 2 feedings over the course of a week is okay for a short period of time. Your fish will be okay. And then when you come back, you go back to your normal feeding. Everything's going to be hunky-dory. Fish are actually really good at handling short periods of no food, whether that's like 3 days or potentially up to a week, and being okay. The fish typically, this is an interesting statistics, only need about 1% of their entire body weight worth of food in a day. So if you've got your fish well fed before that, they'll go for a while before it becomes detrimental. The other thing you want to make sure is, like, if you're on tanks that do have CO2, let's say you're keeping your CO2 running, make sure you've got oxygenation going. Add extra oxygen just to play it safe. Drop an air stone in there, maybe a sponge filter. Like, yeah, it's temporary, but just do these things to help make sure that you've got some backups and some safeties built in, and you'll be okay. If you use heaters, you probably don't need to stress about them. But if you have a really old heater that's a little finicky, maybe turn it down a couple degrees, right? If you know that, like, or maybe one of the things that you might want to worry about more is if you're in a room that needs like dehumidifiers and you're going to be gone for several days, like I am. If you don't have somebody who's coming in to like empty those out for you. So like, as an example, in previous vacations before brother-in-law James lived with me, my wife, girlfriend at the time, but wife now, would empty the dehumidifier for me, right? That was something she could do to help out. And I would even tell her like, hey, just feed the fish once a day. And I would, for her, I would prepare, like, I would show her how much to feed. And you can sometimes even prepackage your food. Like, you use frozen food, be like, okay, this one needs 2 cubes, 2 cubes, 3 cubes. The big tank needs 6 cubes, whatever that may be, right? It makes it easy. I've seen one of the best people I think does it is Master Breeder Dean. He puts little stickers on his tanks for his like dedicated person who feeds his fish when he's gone. And it just tells him the number of frozen food cubes to feed that tank. And they're color coded if he does multiple foods. So it's like, oh, that's a red one, that gets baby brine shrimp. That's a green one, that gets Daphnia, right? Makes it super easy. Has a little cheat sheet that tells the stuff. Easy peasy. Has them separated. Puts the same color sticker on the packages of foods. Makes it super easy. So if you do have somebody who's maybe not as into fish as you are, that's going to help you out, find ways to make the little things you're having them do as easy as possible, like color coding or pre-measuring things, whatever that may be. All these are great ideas to help make stuff a lot easier on you. I'm curious, like, chat, what do you guys have? I want to know some of your various ways that you do stuff when you go on vacation. Like Alyssa kind of spoke up. Shamu Aquariums. I'm going to Florida for like 12 days in October, but my dad and grandparents are retired hobbyists, so let me take care of the fish while I'm gone. Shamu's got it hooked up. What better person to put in the hands? Retired hobbyists who know what the heck they're doing. Paul Soltero plants with no CO2 for a few days. The withdrawals are a terrible thing to watch. It's not that bad. A few days ain't going to hurt you. It'd be like if you did for 2 weeks. That would be a problem. Nabokov fan, the other hot tip. I love PECTEC's idea of setting up pill holders for the week of food. Open the day, toss it in, super easy. Yeah, that's a perfect way to like measure food, right? Pill holders, that's genius, dude. Why am I not that smart? Probably because PECTEC is super smart. I love that guy. I hope I get to meet that guy in person at some point, just because he seems like a really cool dude to hang out and chat with. Which, speaking of, if you are going to Keystone Clash, please do not be shy. Come say hi. I'm going to be doing everything I can to be as social as possible, and that might include yelling at Scotty to stop asking me to do stuff. No, I'm gonna be a noob to judge some fish. Apparently. Then we've got the 2 talks. Actually, hold on. Wait a minute. I can show you guys some stuff for you lovely folks. Let me load something real fast. Let me see if I can do this the way I want to do this. Is this in this mode? No, that's not the way I want to do it. Nope. Kind of want to show you guys a couple of short things just so you can get a preview of the 2 talks that are coming up. Can do just like this. It's gonna break for a half second. I'm getting it set up, I promise. Okay, so really briefly, it's gonna get ugly for a half second, but I'm doing a plant talk, and then a brand new talk for Keystone Clash that will come live on my channel, so you guys get to watch it. But that is this bad boy here. Me need to do this, and then I need to bring this over here. And you'll even get like a preview on the side of a few of the things that are coming up. But oh sure, don't scale it. That would be helpful. Okay, there. Fixed briefly. What do you think? That's the title of my rainbow fish talk, is Beautiful Idiots. So yeah, this is the brand new talk that'll be up on my channel sometime after Clash. We might take a break in the middle of the Your Filter Sucks and Your Filter is Awesome series. To have these talks go up and some of the stuff from Clash. But both talks will go up. Pretty sure I can get the panel chat up too. We'll see how well I can record that and how well it comes up. It's basically just a Q&A on Rainbow Fish with me, Kelly, and Dancefish. So that should be fun. I don't know if anybody else is on that one. I'd have to go look, or maybe Scotty can tell me. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the talk. I took a good amount of time putting it together, trying to make it fun and enjoyable, kind of like the one for the Dojo Loaches. A little, slightly less comical, not quite as intentionally jokey, but certainly room for some fun and some enjoyment. I need the Apple look. Oh, no. I now, because of my work, have an Apple machine specifically for work, and I still don't like it. Oh, man. Not a Kava fan. The big thing for me, clean every filter because delays happen and so on. Airstone in every tank. I don't run aqua clears. Subtle jab. Yeah, I mean, if you're in an area that has lots of power outages, absolutely would I recommend like having airstones and things that are good when power outages happen, because certain filters just don't prime themselves super well after a preview. After a preview, it's been a long day at work. After a power outage, but some filters do well, and even aqua clears can if you keep your water level like really good. So that's why I focus on, one of my big focuses is water changes in tanks and getting my water levels really nice. That way I know that if I'm gone for a week, 4 days, whatever it may be, that everything is good. Stephen P., I think you covered hob filters thoroughly and accurately. No need for a second part of that video. Oh, there's one coming. There's one coming. Geek Boy, you can always accidentally dump your MacBook in an indoor pond. I hear that works quite well with them. No, I need it for work because, like, you know, some of our customer base uses Macs, so I need to be able to test things on Mac to make sure that the experience on Mac is what I expect compared to the experience on a PC. Right? Like, my personal machine is a PC. It's really, really well built, but I still have like a small MacBook that's kind of lower powered on purpose in order to like be a more accurate representation of a lot of our customers. It's just part of my work, part of what I do for a living, right? I gotta play with toys, which is kind of nice, but that sometimes means I have to play with toys that I'm not necessarily a fan of. Well, it's okay. They have their place. They have their place. Ken's 3D, my 13-year-old son is my backup plan. He is amazing. Awesome. And also great that you have a young aquarist in the family. Sometimes, you know, your kids don't necessarily get into the hobby. I was pretty lucky in that I really loved fish as a kid. So when my parents were happy to have a fish tank in the house, I was super happy. Alyssa, I had my dehumidifier empty into a plastic 40-gallon tote. It was only 3 inches full when I got back, thankfully. Yeah, if you have one that can do the pipe out, right, that works. If you're super cheap and you don't buy the ones that will allow you to do that, it can be a little tough, but there's ways to make it work too. You can do some shenanigans and hook it up to make it make it do what you need. But thankfully, I have brother-in-law James and my wife, so somebody will get the dehumidifier for me while I'm gone. If not, well, that'll get bad. Okay, with that being said, guys, if you do have questions, like, feel free at Bentley Pasco, makes it easy. Okay, cool. It is just the three of us for that chat. But Dance Fish, that actual scientist Kelly, and then some dumb off the internet. Me. I think it'll be fun though, right? It's just an open Q&A session. It's after I've done my beautiful idiots talk, so hopefully people will get some like groundwork and more room for asking questions. Andrew Malloy, you look like Apple's management. Nah, dude, I don't like wearing turtlenecks, and I don't like being a douche. Most of the like senior executives at Apple, I will say, like, Apple as a company operates with a like philosophy that I like, which is to say they don't necessarily care. They don't care necessarily what their competition is doing. They just care about building the best products of their own design. And I like that mentality. That's like the infinite mentality where you're always trying to strive to improve on yourself and not worried about what you're beating the opponent, so to speak. I like that mentality a lot more than like some other companies that are out there where they're just like, their whole goal is to just beat their competition. Because that doesn't feel like in the end it's designed to give users the best experience. It's just designed to like win a game. And it's, I don't know, that's the, like, the QA side of me that like really likes some certain things. They operate in a way to screw their customers. All companies kind of do. Let's be honest. There are parts of like the Apple computer I can't stand, right? But there's certain things that are very user-friendly for non-tech savvy people. And that's actually what Apple does pretty well. But when you're like really tech savvy and you've lived in the Windows environment or some other environment for a long period of time, you go to an Apple and it's like, you're a little basic, you're a little easy. I'm an advanced user. Let me do the things I want to do. And it's like, you can't do that. It just really restricts you. And it's very aggravating. Very aggravating. Oh man. I think you'll like the Hob, the why Hobs are great video that's coming out. I've got to finish editing it tonight. Because tomorrow's basically get all my stuff prepped, like laundry and pack clothes and pack all my camera gear and all that stuff. The people were joking earlier that I need to apparently bring bourbon with me to the event. And I say to you, there's liquor stores not very far from that location. So I feel like I can just get some while I'm there. Oh, man. That's why I do everything in a Linux VM. Oh, you like torturing yourself. You're into Linux. Oh, man. Anyway, with that being said, at Bentley Pasco, just like Zen Ginger did, if you have questions, we'll go into Q&A for the rest of the night. Yeah. Zen Ginger, is there a reason you can't freeze dry pellets or granules and combine them into a tank like DIY cubes? Might not work with all the flakes. So I think the problem that you'll run into is freeze drying, depending on what you're freeze drying, will depend on how well it binds together. And when you use already processed foods, you might not have enough things to actually, in the freeze dry process, keep it bound together to where, like, once it starts getting wet, it'll just fall apart everywhere, and not in a way that distributes the food well, like it would if you sprinkled it over the top naturally, right? I think that's the big problem with potentially doing that. Can you do it? I'm sure you could. Am I ever going to do it? Probably not. But I get what you're saying. It would be an interesting experiment if someone had, like, the things they needed to freeze dry at their home. I would be really curious to see if somebody did that experiment and what their results were. Liquid Zoo, I would agree if we were talking about iOS, but macOS doesn't have any limitations, but this will be my last Mac, just tired of overpriced lockdown hardware. It's got limitations. There are certain things you're just not capable of doing in macOS that you are absolutely capable of doing if you're like a really studious power user in Windows. Just saying. But yeah, I'm not a power user of macOS, so I'm sure like there's enough ways to hodgepodge yourself into the things you want to get into, and I'm just not aware, and that's fine. But the fact that it makes it's more obfuscated compared to, say, like Windows OS or Linux, where like Linux will just let you do whatever the heck you want, right? Linux don't give a. Nabokov to the glorious Bentley. Lol. I have to say thank you. I found an older video and was just excited for it. Love the content. Topic was 5 plant tips, and it was nice to see the series. Yeah, so I do want to go back to kind of a micro series like that where I do a few like various X tips videos, because you guys know I don't like top X lists, but I do like, here's 5 plant tips, or here's like 5 tips on how to keep rainbow fish, or here's 5 tips on how to service your filter, or whatever the F it is, right? But things like the top 5 fish to put in your 10-gallon, like, you'll probably never see me make that video, because it will drive me crazy. And to me, and I know there are plenty of people out there who are like, it's really good for introductory people and stuff like that. I'm so biased about the fish that I like that, 1, I'm never going to suggest things for a 10-gallon. 2, my lists are always going to just be rainbow fish. So it inherently is not very good. or I guess somebody would be like, well, give us the top 5 fish to put with the rainbow fish, and I'm just going to tell you more rainbow fish, right? Dumb stuff like that. Like, I would take very satirical approaches to those lists, because I personally think that so many people do that content that there's almost nothing I can add to that genre of fish content other than to be a snarky butt. Or in the case of, not liking that, to me, sometimes they just feel lazy. It's just, I don't know. And it's so opinionated, right? Because, like, the top 5 fish for any given tank is going to be different when it's me versus, say, if it's Paul Soltero or it's Alyssa or it's Mike Stambaugh, right? We're all going to have different opinions of what we think the best fish are for something. And I get when someone like, say, the Aquarium Co-op does it, because they can go like, well, these are the top 5 fish that we sell, so they're probably the top 5 fish that go into that kind of tank, right? If somebody comes in and goes like, hey, I'm putting together a 20-gallon and I want a nice schooler, it's probably easy to say, like, these are the ones that sell the most often, so they're probably the most popular and thus in your top 5 kind of list, right? Best push away and put with rainbow fish are not that are not rainbow fish, roseline sharks. 95% agree, 5% disagree. I do love roseline sharks, but you have to have a very big tank. If you're trying to do like the smaller rainbow tank, like a 40-gallon breeder, no roselines. Just they really do want that big swim space, and they get that big body. That's where I would say like Corridoras work well. Corridoras actually do very well with rainbows. But yeah. Mike Stambaugh. I must say that your Lions performed very admirably, and I felt quite lucky that my Seahawks pulled it off. Because honestly, I think that the Lions this year are a phenomenal team. They look really good, and they've got a lot of grit. You got a lot of no give up, absolutely fight to the last second, and it was a really fun game to watch, even if it gave me like 6 heart attacks. Because, that's too close. Best nano rainbow fish for a 10-gallon with a beta fish. None. There are no nano rainbow fish. And if you're going to ask me about them little silly pseudomagills, those are not rainbow fish. That's me being a snarky person. That's just, I don't like that. Because here's what I'm going to tell you. Like, anybody who asks me what's the best fish to put in tank X, I've made that video. Right? Which is basically to say, go into a fish store, look at every tank. So if you're freshwater, look at all the freshwater tanks. And then kind of take a note, look at each tank for like a minute or two. And then come back, think about like, what's it, 3 or 5, maybe it's only 2 things that I really want to go back and watch again. And watch them for 10 or 15 minutes. Each of those things. If it's 3, if it's 5, maybe only for like 5 to 10. And then ask yourself again, like, okay, out of those, which one do I want to go back and watch longer? That's the fish you pick. Because if I tell you a fish, it's not going to be the same as if you did that experiment yourself. And most of the fish I'm going to tell you, you can't find in a fish store. Because I'm a rainbow snob, and we're like, well, yeah, you can't get that Cali Tawa in no fish store, son. Nope. You know, like, there's so many like weird things, and like nowadays I pick my fish for behavior, pattern, because you get so many things out of rainbow fish that certain fish, like an example, the running river rainbow, schools way tighter than almost every other rainbow fish out there. And that's part of their behavior that I love. Plus they have this cool story. So of course, like, I'm probably always going to have running river rainbow fish because I just love that fish. I love the way they look. I love the way they act and behave. Where if I look at like Bozemanite, they're the one that got me into rainbow fish. I'm probably always going to have some kind of Bozemanite around, but they act so much different and their pattern is so unique, right? It's that like front half of the male is one color, back half is another. It's very distinct, and almost no other fish, period, looks like that. Not even in rainbow fish, right? So, you know, there's things like that. Like I start picking fish for very different reasons nowadays, and I'm more like seasoned in my hobby. I wouldn't say expert in my hobby, but it's like I've spent enough time in my hobby that my taste has evolved to where I look at things that are unique and interesting. Like an example, I love the Frederick Eye rainbow because of that like big black splotch on the back when they mature, but it takes forever for them to get that in. They take a long time to mature that. Or like the maculosus, the little spots that go down the center line of the fish, right? That makes them unique and interesting. And that makes them more appealing to me, and not necessarily because they're the most colorful, right? That's where like my part of the hobby starts getting a little weird. Now they are colorful, don't get me wrong. I like color in my fish. I'm not that guy keeping the the like the potato puffer that just looks like a rock that sits there and waits to ambush its food. That's Leo. He likes those. But you know what I'm saying? Like I still like colorful fish and I like my schoolers and things like that, but I start looking at things very differently now as a more like advanced, might be the better word, hobbyist. Dan's fish. What's up, Dan? Rainbow snobs look at all the rainbows, then go buy Bozeman Eye. I haven't bought any Bozeman Eye from you, sir, and I've bought a number of rainbows from you. And I'll be buying a number of rainbows from you in the future. And probably none of them will be Bozeman Eye. Oh, man. I'll have so much fun here soon. Uh, I love fish conventions. The reason why I love fish conventions is gotta go sit and babble with other fish nerds and just like forget about the rest of the world and just talk about the dumb things that we love about our hobby and why we like this thing and we don't like that thing and why, and then listen to another person say the completely different answer from ours and appreciate it just as much, right? Or talk about like, oh, you know, I watched this and that got me into this thing, and then I ended up into this and this, and like listening to the journey of each person that got into fish and how they got where they are now. Like I love that part of our hobby. Like listening to people's stories about how they got into things, or like dumb stories, you know, about how you you have some like weird nickname in your club because you're known for a certain thing. And it's just, you know, the little silly things like that, right? That's the part of fish keeping that I love when it comes to conventions. Is like I get to go and enjoy that part of the fish keeping hobby, the social aspect of a bunch of people who are inherently not very social. We just got like cooped up in our house or fish. But when we get to go be with other fish nerds, we're at ease and it's cool. We can have a lot of fun just babbling about dumb stuff. Nabokov fan, if you were to do a funny skit about the hobby with Dan in person, what do you think would be your topic of choice? Well, I feel like with Dan, we would have to do a satirical video about how to pack fish, but teach you all of the worst possible things. Like, okay, only use breather bags, but make sure you double bag them, and then wrap them up in wet cloth. Now put that inside of a standard fish bag, right? Just like go so over the top in like all of the worst possible advice known to man, but try to play it as like deadpan as possible. Like we are absolutely serious and this is the most professional way to do things, right? Like you only put one fish per box, no more. And make sure that that box is full of styrofoam packing peanuts. And you're going to have to do this for each individual tetra. And remember, you cannot possibly ship any slower than next day air. You know, just like completely insane levels of stupidity when it comes to things like that. Like I would, if I were going that route, because like Dan, right? We know Dan. Dan's probably the most immaculate fish packer there is when it comes to as far as other online businesses. You know, just like going the complete opposite side of what is the right way to do things. Because like, yeah, can you use a breather bag? Yeah, I've shipped plenty of fish in breather bags, but compared to the like professional level of what Dan's doing at his shop, right? We go just like absolutely crazy. I don't know. I think that'd be fun. Fish and outdoors with Lando. Bentley Pasco, what is your favorite shrimp? Well, you know, I'm kind of a big fan of like the spot prawn. Oh, no. I really like, even though I'm terrible at keeping them, I like just the yellow neocaradinas. And then second is probably the blues, the blue dream, so the darker blue, not your lighter blue. And then just your standard cherry. I like a lot of the regular caradina shrimp, but I'm already so bad at keeping shrimp when it comes to neocaradinas that I don't want to try the caradinas. Eventually, I'll get better, right? I'll stop trying to like mix them. I'll do dedicated shrimp tanks, and I'll stop being an idiot. Which is really the answer, is that I've been an idiot. But those are the ones I like kind of in order. Yellow for me is just a standout. They pop so strongly, especially with the gold back. I love the gold back on the yellow shrimp, where I don't necessarily like that back on like cherries or blues. I love Blue Dreams. I kept Blue Dreams for a while. And then now Alyssa has like what was left of my Blue Dream colony, and she's done phenomenal with it. And at some point, I've threatened to come get some from her, and hope that I can actually do it right this time. Johnny Dan's Fish. I think we're the only ones using Aquabid at this point. Oh, there's quite a few. There's quite a few like your individual people that use it. Oh man, let's go, champ. Good to see you, buddy. It's been a while. You've been busy. Megabot champ. Been busy. Good to see you. But yeah. Oh, Crypt Keeper Aquatics. Cannot wait to meet you at the Clash. You know, I'm excited too. I can't wait to meet a ton of people. Andrew, can you do videos on online fish shops? I mean, can I? Yes. But the problem is I've only ordered from a few. And how do I put this? Almost all of them have some level of fan base, and I don't necessarily like being that person that is brutal even on the ones I don't like, right? Like, I've had some really bad experiences with certain online fish or plant sellers. And it's to a point where like I basically almost never talk about them because I don't have good experiences with them. And I've talked to people that have had good experiences, and every time I do, I'm like, hey, great that you've had a good experience. And I try my best not to be like, yeah, but I had a horrible experience. I would never shop with them ever again, right? I try not to do that because I want people to form their own opinion. Like when I do equipment reviews, it feels a little more reasonable because inherently, right, my profession is testing things for a living. I do quality assurance for a living. Now, granted, it's on like software and hardware, but I can still apply that to fish and look at some of the things that are good engineering, bad designs, why they function well, why they don't function well, and just report my findings, right? Where against like other businesses, when it comes to shipping, it's kind of there's part of it that feels not good because it's not necessarily my expertise. It's not like my expertise is shipping fish. I'm not. I can say the person who's an expert in shipping fish, Danny Dan's Fish, right? All the Dan's Fish folks, they know how to ship fish. People who are really good at shipping plants, honestly, Aquarium Co-op. If you like ever see plants from them before, especially most recently with the like sleeves that they put over that are lightly humid to help hold in moisture to keep the plants safer through their trip. Like just the way they pack things is really smart. But there are other places that totally don't do that. And you're like flipping a coin whether or not your plants are going to come in good or not. And so, I don't know. Maybe at some point I should just like not care about being polite and just go hog wild on some people. But I don't know. I guess that's my thoughts. So like, as an example, I very rarely have things shipped from, say, like the co-op because I'm just close enough to them. Whereas, Dan's Fish, I can't just go pick something up, so I have to have it shipped, as an example, when I order there. And lately, I haven't ordered a lot of stuff in general because I'm kind of where I want to be with most of my tanks. Or I've got local breeders that I'm getting stuff from. Yeah. Brian got Hestatus off Aquabid, was like doing archaeology, kind of felt like finding the treasures at the end of the dungeon, but now I need some similar tetras to calm these down. Oh no. Oh no. Bob Purcell, have a 1-year-old tank that is now cloudy. Been that way for a month, only shrimp and snails. Any thoughts on troubleshooting? So my first question to you, Bob, is when you turn off the light, does that cloud look whitish or greenish? Because first we want to identify whether it's the start of green water or whether we're looking at a bacterial bloom. Because I've had tanks have bacterial blooms that have been healthy for a long time. It just happens sometimes. And usually the first thing that I see is it's typically a bacterial bloom. And usually it's like, okay, I need to actually get some of the extra detritus out of the substrate, and then a couple of good water changes usually solves the problem. I'm typically not afraid of bacterial blooms because usually I have excess oxygenation, so the risk is really low. And for the most part, those tend to be beneficial bacteria, not usually negative bacteria. But you could use medication to solve the problem if you were really paranoid. Typically, you would want to use a medication that is something like kanamycin, neomycin, something that affects gram-negative bacteria, not erythromycin, which does gram-positive bacteria. But usually, they resolve themselves relatively simply on their own. Johnny, you can come pick up fish anytime you want, Bentley. I mean, it'd be a heck of a road trip, that's for certain. Melody Heart, do not drink anything other than bottled water and drinks. This will keep you from getting sick. The new C is waterborne, not in the air. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, should be fine in that sense. I'm probably going to be mostly carrying like bottled water around or filtered water at least, but I've also had vaccinations and boosters and that kind of stuff, so I'm not too terribly worried about our dear friend Corona Chan. But yeah, I definitely don't want to get sick. I've had that once. It was not fun. But Bob, to go back to your thing on the tank, if for some reason it's not resolved with those couple few things, just shoot me an email. We can debug it. We can figure it out. I don't know who, if anyone, has even had the idea, but if you kept up with Rachel Leary at all, I hope she's doing good. I hope people reach out from FishTube, just send her positive messages. I actually talked to somebody recently who knows Rachel relatively well. Man, who was I talking to? This is killing me because I was talking to somebody who keeps in relative contact with Rachel, and from what I heard, she was doing okay. But I don't know. I didn't follow Rachel all that closely. Just wasn't my particular cup of tea. But I did like a lot of her like fish spotlights. I think those were actually really well done. I mean, yeah, I hope in general anyone is doing well. Like even so, like as an example, right? It was mentioned earlier that King of DIY was at someone's local fish club recently, and they went to a presentation, got to meet them, and all that kind of stuff. Like, while I personally am not a fan of his content, I hope he's doing well. I hope all fish hobbyists are doing well. Unless you're, like, actively nefarious, hope you're doing well. I like to see the positive in life. Johnny Dancefish. If it's waterborne, I'd suggest making sure there is some alcohol in all the liquids you consume. Oh, no. Johnny's trying to get me just destroyed, apparently. Just make a note, check out her community tab. If you haven't, you'll understand why I ask. Well, now I'm just going to do that right now. For poor kitties had to have an amputation. Having dealt with surgeries on my dog, I totally understand. Feel bad about that. Poor kitty. Yeah, she stopped doing content for a while, mostly for health reasons. She had to kind of break down her fish room for the most part, and like I hope, as far as her health is concerned, she's doing a lot better. And I totally understand needing to shut down your hobby, even if you love it, in order to take care of your personal health. Like, personal health is top tier. Like, if you don't watch your health and you care more about your hobby, I'm sure somebody's going to give me some snarky comment about that, but it's one of those things where, like, you got to watch for your health. It's important. Be around. That way you can enjoy your hobbies longer. Kingfisher's Catch. Yeah, speaking of who was watching King of DIY, interesting to hear Joey talk about the impact of YouTube and how it can govern a lot of aspects of life. Met some fascinating hobbyists with all sorts of projects, from ranchos to rays. Me, the hobbyist, would be way more interesting to me, to personally speaking. But, yeah, I bet that's actually an interesting presentation, especially from a perspective of, like, people who interact with the YouTube sphere a lot. It can be really, really cool. Sid Miller, would you recommend more males or females breeding pseudomcgills? More females, absolutely. I would recommend same thing that I do with the big rainbows. At a bare minimum, you want 2 males per 3 females, but realistically, I would do something like three males to like 6 to 7 females, because the males will try to spawn and spawn and spawn, and if there's not enough females, they'll over chase the females and tire them out, and then they run into diseases and problems. You want, if possible, significantly more females than you want males, almost to a 2-to-1 ratio if possible. Sometimes even more if you can do it. Makes it a lot easier. Sid Miller, I'll follow up with that other. Have you heard of breeding egg layers in tanks with shrimp? Mostly pseudomcgills and medacas. I'm worried the shrimp will eat the eggs. So, cool. You're actually like spoiling one of the things that I'm going to talk about in my rainbow fish presentation. I'm kidding. So, it's well known that in the case of like cherry red shrimp and a lot of your neocaradinas, they actually do a really good job of not destroying the egg, but preventing fungus from building up on them. So a lot of rainbow fish keepers actually will keep rainbow fish eggs and fry in with neocaridina shrimp, specifically typically cherries, because they're actually very good at cleaning those things. However, it is not necessarily the case with potentially some of your even smaller eggs. So the way that I think about this, like CPDs, I think tetras you would be fine, and it might be group to group. But we've just noticed a pattern in like the rainbow fish community in general that neocaradinas plus baby rainbow eggs is actually a really good combination. Neos are pretty awesome with eggs. They have this wonderful kind of cohabitation symbiotic relationship. I suggest them. I think they're awesome. I'm bad at keeping them, but Nabokov fan, 100%. She had lots of surgeries. Love the knowledge she shared. Yeah, I think she was really good. Like I said, I loved her species profiles. Those are the things that I was really interested in of her content, because she did have lots of great detail, and she kept and sold lots of interesting fish. She'd given a presentation at my club at one point. I've gone back and watched it. It was good. But yeah, it's just, I can only watch so many creators, so it's not like I actively watched everything she put out. But I hope she's doing well. Seemed like a nice gal. Loved her attitude. I love that in-your-face attitude. That's very, very me. Love you, dog, and Bravehearts. Thank you both on the Seahawks. Yes, I am excited about our win. Feels good, but, you know, at the same time, I kind of feel bad watching the Lions lose. Although I will say, I kind of hope that we start seeing, at least if we're going to keep playing the Lions every year, we have these like close games. Because I like the fact more that it was a good game than necessarily like my team won. Like, I would be happy if we lost in a similar fashion, because it was just a good game to watch. I mean, heart attacks constantly, right? Because inherently I'm rooting for my team. I'm a homer. But still, really good. Really good. Escargot and caviar, not a good match. Yeah, keep snails away from eggs at all, whenever possible. Snails will just eat them. Snails are the worst. Neocaridina, good friends. Kingfisher's Catch had the cleaners turn on AC in the hotel room. Cold shocked the Snapper Creek Rads I'd traded for Myra and Lobos always said, "Oh no, oh, uh, the babies." That's I feel bad. I feel bad for you. That's why my general suggestion: keep him in the bathroom. The bathroom doesn't get as much cool air from the AC, and typically stay warmer. Utilize the bathroom for your fish in your hotel room at all times. I know this crazy brain occasionally has good ideas in it. But yeah, hopefully you can set yourself up with another trade in the future and not get that happening to you. Or the other thing is leave a note. Johnny Dansfish, do you watch any college football? No. I watch people make fun of college football. I don't like the playoff system in college football or the ranking system in general because it feels less like it's about how good a team actually is and more about perception of a team. I just much prefer professional football and the way it does things. Also, it's hard to really follow college when your local colleges have not been good for a long time. The Huskies are starting to get better, but Wazoo is just we jokingly say they coug it all the time, which is generally means to say they screwed up. So it's a well-known saying in Washington State. Alishon, I've always set up tanks in hotel bathrooms. Man, see, I'm proving things right. Paul Soltero room sales at the Clash. I imagine there will be some. I'm not one of them. Nabokov fan, that tank behind you, dump in 10 shrimp, and I bet you have them do well. I actually want to replace the tank. So that's the thing. I want to do a different tank, and I just need to be how about this? I need to dedicate time to finish getting this cleaned out and then putting the new tank there that's going to go there. Although I really want to get something different than this old thing to have a tank up. Although it's nice because it keeps it high. So I don't know, maybe I'll figure something out. I've got other tanks I need to focus on first. Other tanks to focus on first. Big boy tanks, 40 gallons all the way. I've never liked or cared about college football, but the Deion Sanders storyline is great. I have been watching basically highlights from each of the Colorado games, just because it's interesting to watch what's going on with their team. A proof of concept that Bentley and Shrimp can be friends. I'm sure we can be friends. I'm just an idiot. Fish and Outdoors with Lando. Bentley, filter or no filter in a 5 to 10 gallon tank long term. I personally like having at least some kind of filtration, even if that's just a simple sponge or a breeder box. You could do something a little more fancy and go a matin filter or even under gravel filtration. I prefer some semblance of water flow. It's just a safety precaution, and adding that oxygenation helps. Most of the time, I put enough plants in a tank that this doesn't need filtration. It has enough tanks and almost no bioload in it. I do it anyway, just as a safety precaution. It makes me feel better if all else fails. Leo, the Fahaka found that comment offensive about him being a potato. Fahakas can look really cool though, so it's all right. I'm talking more like your ambush predator ones, the ones that literally do look like potatoes. They stay about that size. Not my jam, but it's kind of like people who are like, oh look, I got that one random brown pleco that you only see once every 6 months. But only 3 other people in the United States have it. That kind of stuff. That deep in the hobby has never been my jam. I just like color too much. Alec Kumanoff, Planet Advice. Know anything about Anubias butterfly? It's Barterai on steroids. Got 3 Thor's hammer Java ferns. Only some of the fronds are bifurcating. Cut back the regular fronds. Okay, so let me answer this in 2 spots. Am I familiar with the butterfly? I've seen pictures of it, but I haven't kept it myself. So that's the most I know. Interesting to know that it's more like kind of a Barteria just on steroids. As for the Thor's hammer, You might try chopping them off, but if they're not splitting, I'm wondering if that's just a maturation thing as the leaf grows in fully. Because, like, my example to you would be this, like, Java Fern Wendeloff, when it's first growing in, isn't lacy right away. It gets all those little lacy edges as it matures that leaf. So I'd be wondering if it has to grow to a certain point and then it starts to bifurcate and then keeps growing. I haven't kept... I think Thor's Hammer is one of the few that I haven't actually kept. I know I got one at one point, but it didn't do well when I transferred it over, and then bam. So I don't know from my own experience whether or not it's an issue with now or later. When Bentley directly makes fun of your fish hobby. But we're still friends. It's okay. Most of yours aren't weird brown ones. They have like white spots or something interesting about their patterns. I have the more weird brown ones, technically speaking, because I have the Wabenmoosters, and the males are really dull until they want to breed, and then they're like amazing bright yellow fluorescent things with all that cool honeycombing pattern, where the females just look cool all the time because they're awesome fish. Yeah, I also gave you a bunch of rare plecos. Okay. Nabokov fan, have you had any luck finding what you want with the right grain size? Oh, you're talking to Leo about his sand expeditions, trying to find the perfect sand. He'll figure it out. He's gonna get there. All right. We got a couple minutes left, so last second questions. Get them in now while you can. Alec, prior one from Hobbyist had all fronds crested, even when they were a little young. Because if that's the case, then I would say, yeah, trim them off and try to encourage it to grow the right fronds. I don't know how well that's going to work, but it's worth a shot. Kelly Foreman, speaking of Kelly, see you soon. Absolutely. Looking forward to hanging out, Kelly. It's going to be fun. It's going to be real fun. I know that, like, Greg Jones and I have been talking about hanging out while we're there and doing the stuff, babbling. I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of the creators, as well as just you wonderful people who are here in chat all the time. People like Paul Soltero. Kelly, who does some amount of creation, but not necessarily all the creation, right? It'll be fun. We're going to be nerding out. Cryptkeeper Aquatics, we're nerd out. It's going to be good. Leo209, what's your favorite, or what's your next rainbow, fish that you want? Good question. I think I'm still kind of on the maculosus again, Glossolepis maculosus, but there's not a lot of people who have that. And, I mean, I understand, like, Lucas is selling them because they're hard to find and selling them at a price, but I feel like we should distribute them into the hobby first to get them to people that can make sure that we don't just, like, lose this fish entirely, because we're on the verge of that. But yeah, I don't know. That's probably that. And then after that, I do like both the Kalitawa and the Myra size, but I think I would rather have, like, Centoniensis again, because I had a bunch of trouble with my Centonies. So that's probably the next one. It'd be the Centoniensis. Oh, we can speed around this. Bob Purcell, what aquarium plant would make the best turn for a football game? Could you curate it if King of the Hill style give the Seahawks an advantage? What? I'm so confused. I'm gonna move on, Bob, just because I'm curious what you mean by best turn. Like, best play? Best, like, position? I'm confused on that part. Curated King of the Hill style? No, I can't do it. Oh, best turf. Turf. Oh. Well, that depends. Okay, you want to talk turf. Now, are we trying to be advantageous purely for the run game? Or do we want the pass game to be successful? Because if we only want the run game, I think we want to have a nice, thick carpet of Stargine ribbons. I think it's very important that we keep that bad boy short but dense, right? But if we care about the pass game, we're trying to slow down the run and we want more some passing. I am saying we want to go all in on Glosso Stick. Short, speedy, fast. It's my idea. I'm also a psycho, but what do you think? David Sandoval, what do you think of Corys and Guppies? They breed in the same tank. They're in a 90 gallon. Yeah, they can. The thing that I would say is Corys typically want slightly different things to occur to trigger their breeding than the Guppies. And the big thing that I've learned from some Cory breeders is because of the way that Corys breed, which say they run around, they kind of like rub up against the side or even sometimes like headbutt the side of the females to get them to release their eggs. Typically, it's more advantageous to have your corridors in small tanks because they don't have to chase the female as much to have that action occur where they're kind of like headbutting or rubbing the side of the female to get her to release eggs. Whereas Guppies, bigger tanks can make it a little easier. But can it happen? Yes. Some of your say bronze Corys or Sturbis, the ones that are like really prolific breeders in the grand scheme of things are really easy to breed. Sure. Panda Corys would be another really good one. They can. The other fish breeding can trigger because then they'll see it's safe for baby fish according to that fish, so it must be safe for us to do the same. So there's benefits and potential things that could be difficult, but I would say as long as you leave cover for the Corys to hide and feel safe, and they get plenty of food, especially easy food for even like baby Corys to feed on, and they have this like nice thing of top dwelling Guppies, I think you'll be fine. I think that's a good setup. Why does it sound like you've thought this through a few times before? I know my plants, sir. I know my plants. Also, I've been a Seahawks fan for a long time, and we have like two mentalities of play: bad and run the football. Andrew Miller, do you like fish video games like Instant Aquarium? I haven't tried any of them, to be honest. If I'm going to play the fish tank, I kind of want to play the real fish tank. And then other than that, I play games to get myself out of life. So as an example, right now I've played a ton of Baldur's Gate 3 because that game is phenomenal. I'm on my about to be on my third playthrough, and I can do things completely different each time. And I've found stuff each time that I missed in the previous ones, and I love those games. They are a lot of fun. Seahawks football is a lot like Dolphins football. You just want to screw it up. Yeah. Instant Aquarium is fun. I don't know. I might have to check it out. All right, gang. If you're going to be at the Keystone Clash, please, please, please come say hi. I want to just be able to sit and babble with you. Maybe we'll try and figure out a group meal or something. We all go together and sit in a restaurant and just hang out, whatever it may be. We'll figure something out, no matter what it is. But please come say hi, come chatter. Because otherwise, I'm going to feel bad that I didn't get to meet you. Second, thank you guys so much. We'll be back next week. Look for the next video in our filtration series this Saturday. That'll still be coming out even if I'm at the Clash. So easy. And as always, thank you so much for watching and stay awesome. Do I still have the Bozeman Eye like a Tinjo from Bob Steenfon? I have one male left. I lost a lot of them when I had some heat waves, unfortunately. But I know where to get more.